Welcome to the Scariest Things podcast, your gateway to the trends and tropes of the horror genre. This is episode 134. Cryptids.
Coming to you direct from
Cryptid Central, a.k.a. Sasquatchville.
a.k.a. Halloween.
A.k.a. Well, that's not a place, it's a time.
Scariest day of the year.
It's the scariest day we are recording on the scariest day of the year.
And highly unusual for Portland, Oregon, it is a beautiful sunny day.
I know.
On Halloween. It is a warm 60 degrees, and the sun is out, and the fall colors are changing. It was wonderful. It is wonderful.
It is beautiful.
And how is it in
Nice.
New Orleans, Liz
It's
Williams?
about 70 degrees, sunny, and lovely.
Yeah, actually, I think Halloween is about the best time in New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's going to be great tonight.
Yeah. So, as you may have guessed, that was Liz, and I'm Eric Lee.
And this is Mike Campbell coming to you from Halloween Bigfoot Central.
Yes.
The Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, Mike surprised me with the
With Halloween.
Yeah, with the Halloween announcement.
But you should have known it was coming up because you are a horror podcaster.
Well,
right?
or
Yeah.
I'm just a human living in the United States who
The day,
today. You have to load up with your candy. So yeah, but I spent yesterday. Mike and I went down to enjoy a fabulous fall football game.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And upon returning back to Portland, I set up my Halloween decorations. I got my Atmos effects machine cranked up.
Ooh.
Got myself. They've got 2 new pumpkin jamboree things so that you can actually cast animations on real pumpkins. So they will sing and tell scary stories to the people coming up on your
Cool.
deck. And I got some new I think they call it specters, which will zoom across my balcony and at night, and so people can see it from about 3 blocks away. It's going to be super cool.
Those that don't know, tell us about Atmos.
Well, Atmos, funny you ask. They are one of our partners in.
Yes, indeed.
And if you go to our website, you can click on the link to Atmos FX and all of the wonderful stuff they have. Now, this is probably getting to you after Halloween, so if you have some.
That's
They
okay.
have stuff for Christmas
have
and
stuff
all
for
other
Christmas.
holidays.
Yeah, and just
Yeah.
get ready for next Halloween. Come
Well, yeah,
on.
I mean, if you felt like you got shown up by your neighbors this year, and next year you want to blow the neighborhood away with how cool your Halloween setup is, go get yourself a digital projector from Atmos FX. And if you already own one,
sure.
you should check out some of the new things. They have some new creepy portraits that you can actually. This doesn't even have to be cast on the outside. You can do like your own Halloween party, and you can project things like spiders crawling out of your walls.
Yes.
Or you can cast, if you have a blank wall, you can cast an image of like creepy portraits with ghosts on them that will slowly decay in front of your eyes.
Oh, cool.
It is really, really cool stuff. And again,
Don't be one up by your neighbor.
Yes, that's right.
That's the take-home message here.
this
Do
is-
not be one up by your neighbor.
This is horror shaming.
Do not be shamed.
You're better than your neighbor.
You are better than your neighbor.
Yeah, when the kids come over and all you have is a bag of candy for them when
That sucks.
You want to open the door, and behind you want to have something coming up, stalking them, ready to take their candy from them. That's what you want.
This is Halloween
That's
as a
Atmos FX.
contact sport. This is
That's right.
competitive Halloween. Don't be one up by your neighbor.
So,
Come on.
anyways,
Get an Atmos
yeah.
projector.
So go click on our links and see what all the buzz is about. It's really amazing stuff.
It is, indeed.
Yep.
So that said,
Yes.
we have a Northwest favorite, which is
Although it's
global phenomenon.
It is a global phenomenon, and I think the Southeast in Liz's neck of the woods has also laid claim to many cryptids. But before we jump into that, Eric's can give us a true definition of cryptids. So we have a guidepost to lead us into this episode.
Yes. The word cryptid is a term which is used in cryptozoology, no surprise, to refer to a creature whose existence has been suggested but lacks scientific support.
Who was the first dude to lay it on us?
Well, that would
And when
be,
did he lay it on us?
That would be John E. Wall. In 1983, he wrote a letter to the International Society of Cryptozoology newsletter. Evidence of the cryptids existence of cryptids is typically limited to anecdotal evidence or other forms of evidence insufficient to withstand normal scientific scrutiny by the general zoological community, aka hokum. The existence of several cryptids has been debunked through scientific investigation by cryptozoologists, zoologists, and other interested parties. Some allegations have been exposed as deliberate hoaxes. For example, the surgeon's photograph, which I did not know of. Still, cryptozoology is a subject that has made its way into popular culture and often intrigues media consumers, as illustrated by shows like Monster Quest, Destination Truth, and The Secret Saturdays. And it actually is derived from
what,
the term.
and what?
Yeah. Yes, all that's apparently not so famous stuff, or
Hip shows in 1983.
So
Yep.
the term cryptid actually is derived from Greek, meaning hide. So yeah.
Oh, like as in to
okay.
hide.
Yes,
Okay.
as in to
Yeah,
hide.
okay.
So, anyways,
I'm going to say John E. Wall is a made-up name. But, John, if you're listening, we would love to have you on the podcast, and you could tell us a little bit more about
defend
cryptids.
your existence,
Yes.
because I think Mike is
I
trying to
think
debunk the existence of John E. Wall.
I think
that he
you
thinks
are
he
a-
himself is a.
You are a fake.
Cryptid.
He's a cryptid. Yes. So I think my first recollections of cryptids
Uh-huh.
was from the 1970s show starring Leonard Nimoy,
Best show ever.
In Search of.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And
No, it was absolutely the best show ever. Mine was close to that in that we used to go. They used to have this natural history museum in Spokane, which is like since been recast as something else. It's still a natural history museum, but they had the Patterson-Gimlin film or the Gimlin-Patterson film. I don't know which comes first, Gimlin or Patterson. But they had the Bigfoot film, and they had a couple plaster casts of big feats. And
Yeah.
I was probably all of like 6 or 7, but I used to go to that. I used to just make a beeline to that exhibit every time we would go to the Natural History Museum, and I was so intrigued by that,
Yep.
and so intrigued by the Patterson-Gimlin film that
Yep.
like by the time In Search of rolled around, which was like a couple years after that, I was all ears. I was ready to just take all that stuff in immediately, and that set me on a lifetime of horror podcasting.
The thing I love about cryptids is how all of the imagery is just blurry enough to be suggestive.
That's right.
It's like there's
That's
nothing
right.
is in perfect focus. It's either from a long way away, or you see like a furry arm, or
Yep.
you see something that might be a sea serpent, or it could be a guy's arm in the water making the shape of a dinosaur.
Liz, what about cryptids in the southeast U.S.?
I think Florida has some. I don't know. This is not
Florida is a
wheelhouse.
cryptid in and of itself.
Yeah.
Ron DeSantis, cryptid.
not my wheelhouse, but I have been to Loch Ness in Scotland.
Oh, I have too.
and
I have
looked for
too.
Nessie. Didn't see it, but
Yep.
doesn't mean it's not there.
There's a plesiosaur somewhere in there.
Oh hell
Yep,
yeah!
something's in there.
I went to Loch Ness the first time I went was in 1984, I think. And I specifically was like, we're going out of our way. We're going whatever it was,
Yeah.
3 hours out of our way to go up north to Inverness so that I can get on a goddamn
And
boat.
find this. Yeah.
And you froze your ass off waiting to see something.
It was in the middle of summer, and it was like 52,
Yeah, it's still
52
cold. It was
degrees and
50 degrees.
rain.
Yeah, same.
I did not see Nessie, but I will say this. That lake is so dark and dank and shadowy and spooky that I'm
there's
not
something down
surprised.
there.
I'm not surprised people have seen things.
Yeah. Although, like a giant marine reptile in water that's that cold and in fresh water, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But hey, let's roll with it.
Yes.
So here are some other famous cryptids. I think that there's some of this is a bit of Americana. I mean, for and definitely we has a close tie to something we just talked about. Folklore, right?
Right.
Local legends
Right.
that people will claim to have seen, like the Oklahoma octopus. Are you familiar with the Oklahoma octopus?
Oh
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The famous P.T. Barnum Fiji mermaid,
Yes.
which is a roadside attraction in many places where you stitch the body of a bass to a dead monkey and call it a mermaid. The jackalope. which is of
Right.
course, everybody, if you travel through Colorado or New Mexico, and you'll find bad taxidermy of a bunny rabbit with horns stitched to its head. They're great. I think Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox.
Yeah.
It's like that's sort of a fable, kind of. It's like
Sure.
well, actually, that's probably more of a legend than a cryptid. The Jersey Devil, definitely a cryptid.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
The Chupacabra,
Right.
the Wendigo,
Yep.
the Yeti, alligators in the sewers of Miami.
Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis, exactly. That's right. The Kraken
Yeah.
and the Bunyip.
Huh.
These
You know
are
what you
all-
forgot from the Pacific Northwest?
Well,
Come
of
on.
course.
Bigfoot.
No, that's
Well,
but I
Bigfoot.
didn't-
No,
I'm
not
done yet.
not Bigfoot. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Well,
Sorry.
what,
The list
Crater
goes
Lake
on.
Monster?
The list goes on. What?
The Crater Lake Monster?
Nope.
There is no such thing as a Crater Lake Monster, but there is a movie about it.
Ogopogo from
Oh.
Lake Okanagan
Oh,
up
that's
in
right,
up
right,
in
right,
up in
right.
Canada.
Right. Yeah, that's
Come
not. Yeah,
on.
well, that's not Oregon. You said.
I said
Northwest.
Pacific
Oh,
Northwest. That's
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I think any big body of fresh water tends to, will have a lake monster in it because. well,
Ogopogo.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Lake Superior should have some sort of a cryptid monster.
Hopefully they do. Hopefully
Yeah.
they do.
Anyhow, so those are for those of you who were not wise to what a cryptid is. That's our definition. We had to kind of and Liz had to get walked through. It's like, exactly what are we talking
Yeah,
about?
I had
here?
to look it up. I don't know. I'm not a creature feature person, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
But all right, but before we jump into it, a quick question for each of you. Liz,
Yes.
have you ever seen a cryptid? Do you believe in cryptids?
No, I've never seen one, but I won't rule them out yet.
All
I'll
right.
go back to Scotland to investigate.
All
Take
right.
me back.
Eric?
No,
No to both?
no.
You haven't seen one, you don't believe in them.
I tend to think that I think they are fanciful fabrications.
Okay. Okay.
I am the Scully to your
Okay,
Mulder.
I'll be the Mulder.
I'm going to echo exactly what Liz said. I don't believe in them, but I would love to go back to Scotland to investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to think there is a giant octopus roaming the lakes of Oklahoma. But you know,
I do too. That's amazing.
I don't think it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would love to think that as a little boy, the thing that I wanted most to be real is the lost world, right? There was some place in Venezuela on the high mesas that there would be this place where the dinosaurs survived the extinction. Now
Right.
that we know much more about what caused the dinosaur extinction, it's like, yeah, that wasn't going to happen. But maybe there's a cave that there was some sort of dinosaurs are amongst us, actually. I mean,
Right.
that's the thing. It's like,
Two Mulders and a Scully. All right.
but look at a pelican. It's a dinosaur, right? So, Liz,
Let's get into it.
all right. Why don't you?
Okay.
We'll let you lead off for our cryptid discussion.
All right. Okay, my choice is 2002's The Mothman Prophecies. This is the story of the Mothman, which is West Virginia lore. He is a humanoid creature reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area from November of 1966 to December of 1967. He's described as a large flying man with 10-foot wings and red glowing eyes.
Yep.
And this movie is directed by Mark Pellington, who, fun fact, directed the Pearl Jam video for Jeremy.
Sweet.
And it stars Richard Gere and Laura Linney. So you've got some nice acting chops in this film.
Very good.
And yeah, it's much more of a thriller than a horror movie, but it fits our bill. And this is Richard Gere plays a journalist whose wife dies in a car accident when they swerve to avoid this huge flying black figure.
That only she
And
can
Richard
see.
Gere,
Yep.
that only she can see. And Richard Gere survives. And 2 years later, he gets lost like on a road trip in West Virginia and finds himself in Point Pleasant. And it's hundreds of miles off his route, and his car breaks down, and all sorts of, creepy things, I guess, unfurl. And then Laura Linney plays a sheriff who begins to be romantically involved with Richard Gere, and she has a dream that something says "Wake up, number 37." And there's this other guy named Gordon who's in the town, played by Will Patton, who is an actor who you'll recognize from tons of stuff. And he's also seeing this moth-like creature. And
the whole town is suffering from visions.
Exactly.
And this was actually apparently true. I mean, or
it's true.
Or that there were
based on true,
like group hysteria or mass hysteria in the town of Point Pleasant. That
it happened in what, 1965 or something like that.
66.
66. Yeah, and then there was a book that came out in the mid 70s.
Right.
Apparently, supposedly the book is really, really good and super interesting.
It took them a long time. I think because I think the book came out in like 75.
Right.
And it wasn't. I think this movie is 2002.
This movie is 2002, but this is based on a real accident. So I don't know if it's really a spoiler to say that all these people are, having visions of this Mothman. Each person is getting kind of a different piece of the puzzle, and then Richard Gere's character gets a phone call from this person named Indrid Cole, and they try to use the voice software, and no one can hear it. It's not a man's voice. Things like that. And then there's a bridge collapse. And this happened in reality in this town. Yep. And people died in the 70s.
Like a lot.
Or in the 70s, it was 46 people in reality died. And in 1971, they said that they finally found that it was a failure of an eye bar and a suspension chain.
Right.
But
not a Mothman.
Could have been a Mothman. I don't know. But the Mothman was like warning the people that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that was the, and I was not familiar with the story of what happened in Point Pleasant. And so, the character, Richard Gere's character, John, when he started because this is Collision. we were thinking the same thing here. He did some investigation, and then he was warned, you should stay away from that town. Something horrible is going to happen.
Right.
This is the Mothman is a signal that something is awful is going to happen. And since so many people have seen similar visions, they're probably likely to fall victims as well.
Right.
And I think if you go into an old rusty bridge in West Virginia and you put enough cars in there that could fall into the river, it's like, and they're stuck in there in the wintertime. Yeah, I could sort of say that's an engineering failure, but it's not. It wasn't like the Mothman was pulling the pins out of the thing. It was like, be careful.
Right.
Mothman says warning.
The Mothman just told them 99 people were going to die, and then. He didn't say where.
You know what's crazy about
Mothman?
The Mothman? I wasn't familiar with the Mothman either, and then I started to look into. I watched the Mothman Prophecies, the 2002 version, and then I was like, but as I was clacking away on the computer and I typed in the words Mothman, up came about 20 plus films, Mothman films. There are so many Mothman films out there. Yeah. There's been remakes of this Mothman, that Mothman, short films, feature-length films. I mean, it's clear that people are super interested in the Mothman, and it's clear that within a certain subsect of cryptozoologists, Mothman is super duper popular. I didn't know a thing about it, and I started to wonder. I wonder if it is kind of more of a regional thing, like where the Bigfoot is a Pacific Northwest thing, but the Mothman is a Midwest Appalachian thing.
Yeah, and well, it's such a popular thing that there is a Mothman festival every third weekend in September in Point Pleasant, and it's a really big event. And
I know,
they have a statue of the Mothman, and it's become sort of folklore.
Yeah,
it is what put Point Pleasant on the map. That there was a disaster, and two, this creature that everybody had been seeing in their dreams, was associated with it, and so but it has not been seen since.
Yeah. Point Pleasant, look for the Scariest Things podcast to join you at your festival next year.
Yes.
Guaranteed. We're coming to West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Or I don't know, maybe not.
Mountain Mama. Okay.
All right, what you got?
Mike.
Who's next?
I am going. Of course, I always like to go right to the top of the mountain for any film that we're talking about or any subgenre of horror films we're talking about. I am talking about the 1972 American docudrama horror film about the Fouke monster, which that was what I was alluding to with Liz in the Southeast. This, of course, is The Legend of Boggy Creek. One of my all-time favorite films. I actually sat down and rewatched this. This is about a Bigfoot type creature that roams the swamps in and around Texarkana and Fouke, Arkansas. People have been reporting.
I never heard of this.
Yeah, people have been reporting the Fouke monster. It's Fouke, Fouke monster.
I wonder if that's
Fouke.
a derivation of just, people trying to say folk. But
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. People have been reporting seeing this creature since the 1940s. But the thing that's great about this is that it was directed, the film's director and producer is this guy, Charles Pierce, who was basically just an advertising salesman who was like, hey, you know what? I'll bet if I made essentially a fake cryptid movie like this, I could sell it to drive-ins all over the place and I would probably make a mint. Cut to yes, he did make a mint.
him rolling in stacks of hundos and
Yeah, it cost about $100,000 because he essentially paid a bunch of high school kids to play all the various parts of the film, and they're almost all uncredited. He made about $25 million off The Legend of Boggy Creek. $25 million.
What?
Because it was.
I never even heard of this though.
Yeah. It actually even spawned two sequels, two unofficial sequels and one official sequel. The two unofficial sequels were in 1977, they did The Return to Boggy Creek, and then in 2010, they did Boggy Creek, The Legend is True. In 1985, the official one was Boggy Creek 2, and the legend continues. The thing that's incredible about this is he uses staged interviews with local residents who claimed encounters, and then they did these sort of almost like cops type reenactments with a monster. But the thing that's awesome about it is it's narrated all the way through the film, and so he uses this clever device which I've never ever seen before. The actors don't even talk. It's just people talking over the actors as they're sort of pantomiming what's happening. And it creates a really interesting kind of almost disconnected effect between the action and the narrative storytelling. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really creepy. The thing that's wonderful about it is, of course, it has all the awesome 70s, the sort of sunsets and lens flares and sort of pull focus kind of stuff. I mean, it is like fully wrapped in 1972. And it has a wonderful and very loving Boggy Creek song that is about the Boggy Creek monster that is about as unscary as a song as you will ever find. It almost sounds like a Seals and Crofts song. It is, I think it's really it's a great film. The Little Rock, the Arkansas Gazette from Little Rock said scene after scene of almost pristine wilderness is a visual feast. It's sheer honesty, rigid adherence to authenticity. It's highly persuasive that there is indeed a folk monster. It's scary and charming. Now, granted, that review was written in 1972.
And it was also an Arkansas...
it was an Arkansas paper trying to hustle an Arkansas film.
Yeah, it's like, come to Arkansas, lovely Arkansas, and see the Legend of Boggy Creek.
See the Fouke monster. If you've ever been to a video store in your entire life, I guarantee you have seen the box. I guarantee you have seen the poster art. They did do in 2019, I guess the daughter of Charles B. Pierce, she ultimately ended up with the rights to the film. And so she did like a full, I don't think it's a 4K restoration, but they did a full restoration of the film, and that was the version I saw, which was a Blu-ray DVD, and it looked super nice because they shot the whole thing on film. So, The Legend of Boggy Creek, I think, is right up there at the top of the mountain for cryptid horror.
All right. Well,
Okay.
speaking of
And you guys,
mountains-
neither of you have seen it?
Nope.
No.
Oh, you got to see the Legend of Boggy Creek. You can watch it on YouTube too.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounds like it's probably public domain at this point because
I know it isn't because they
they
did
actually-
because the daughter did go through I think somewhat of a hassle to get the rights to it so she could re-release it.
and get royalties from it.
Yep.
Yep. Well, on the opposite end of the scale, and we are talking about mountains, but this is a super low budget 1974 film.
What?
This is Shriek of the What? You're surprised that I watch movies from the 70s? This is Shriek of the Mutilated
Oh yeah.
What?
by a
I never-
director named Michael Findlay.
I didn't dig deep enough.
This is a terrible movie, but it is a lot of fun. It is one of those. It does not look good. It looks absolutely ridiculous. It has absolutely horrible acting, but it's a lot of fun. and when is a Yeti movie not a Yeti movie? When it's filmed in upstate New York, where supposedly the legendary Yeti lives. There is an explanation for this, actually, as it comes by, and it's essentially we have a bunch of idiots sort of who fall for a line that there's a Yeti in upstate New York. And this is starring a guy named Alan Brock, who plays an anthropology professor, Dr. Prell, and his students, Jennifer, or Karen, played by Jennifer Stock.
Didn't Prell used to be a shampoo?
It is still.
Yeah.
And, I guess, no, you wouldn't, there's no connections here.
Okay.
His star student, Keith Henshaw, who is a sort of a sycophantic, true believer of everything that Dr. Prell has announced about this Yeti. There's Lynn, who is the groovy, big glasses, sort of boy crazy grad student, and Tom, who's the swaggering party boy. And he's played by Jack Newbeck. I don't know if any of these people are still alive or if they did any more movies, because these people probably would struggle in a community theater.
But if you're still around,
Yeah.
get on the podcast.
Anthropology professor Prell takes his research team of grad students to the nearby Catskill Mountains to find the elusive Yeti that he firmly believes is resident on an island. The students are more interested in partying and having a good time than actually believing in Dr. Prell's mission. That is, except for Keith, who's the star pupil,
Right.
the true believer. And right before they leave, the three other students go to a super groovy party with like bell bottoms and lava lamps and all the 70s. Like
Yep.
they actually have a van that looks like the Mystery Machine from Scooby Doo. And but anyways, they're having a good old time just trying to score weed and booze. And when one of the professor's previous students comes in ranting and raving about the dangers of going out to the Catskills and how he and his previous group of colleagues, they all died and he's the lone survivor from the previous mission. And then he eventually, they also, oh, you're just crazy. And then he ends up killing himself in the bathtub. It's like, poor dude. But when they reach their research destination, it's a suburban split level house.
Oh,
That's where Yetis
upstate
hang
New
out.
York, and it is the base camp for the gloriously mustachioed colleague of Dr. Prell, Dr. Werner. And Dr. Werner comments that he's heard the telltale shriek of the Yeti in the nearby woods. Prell then takes the dubious students out on the island in search of the furry beast, and guess what? It finds them. And it looks like a Wampa from Empire Strikes Back and Santa Claus with fangs. And he's sort of bounding around the buildings. They found a guy who could like jump. And so he leaps around.
Are they actually in the woods though, or are they?
Yeah, they kind of. There's a house, and then they wander out. Like,
Is there snow?
no, there's no snow. There's no snow, and that eventually the Wampas, or not Wampa, the Yeti,
Right.
starts taking out some of the students, and they begin. The surviving students begin to panic, and so then they try and set up a trap, and and Dr. Prell goes, "I'm so close, we can't stop now." and the rationale. And if you guys don't mind a bit of spoiler alert stuff,
Spoil it,
for
please.
shrieking and mutilated. Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
this is a it's a fake cryptid. This is a guy in a suit, right?
What? Wait, what?
Running around, and it's actually a cannibal Satan cult that
Oh, I didn't see that
they're
coming.
trying to do.
Well, it's funny. You don't even need to watch the film to know that because they cover that in the poster.
Yeah,
Literally
Yeah.
in the poster,
Oh,
it says, "A frenzied hunt for a hideous beast uncovers an evil cannibal cult, and death is the devil's blessing." That's right on the
Okay.
movie poster.
Spoiler alert.
really, that's like, so they spoiled themselves.
They spoiled
their
themselves
own
on the
poster.
movie poster.
Yep. And,
Amazing.
And so then they have they parade in a bunch of these dignitaries from all over the world to go, and they have to eat somebody who's died of fright. And so the whole thing was the good doctor was actually trying to pick students who he thought were going to easily die of fright and bring them up to his cabin in upstate New York and eat them.
I do want the poster, though. If anybody out there listening has the poster and is willing to give it up, I would love the poster.
It's
the poster
great. You should
is-
check.
Right.
Actually, there is currently, Mike.
Yes.
You could check emovieposter.com.
emovieposter.com. Okay.
They are currently
Oh, are
doing
they
their
doing another
Halloween. They're
big
doing
sale?
their Halloween
Okay.
sale. They got a couple thousand posters that they're on sale from as low as $1 and as much as $20,000.
Okay.
So
Yeah, this one looks
Shriek
like
of the Mutilated probably you could get for $5.
it's on
I
eBay.
don't know.
On
I don't
eBay,
know.
it's going for like $250.
250.
What?
$250.
Wow.
Fitty.
So this was
Okay.
I think it's rated R but it's
For evil cannibal Satanism.
yeah, and that they had they would the Yeti would walk around with they'd find a shredded stump of an arm from one of the kids.
Right.
And it's like, but it was like there was their one prop, and they kept using it over and over and over again. It's like, well, we spent the money to build a fake arm, so let's use it.
Right.
It's completely ridiculous. The film stock quality is completely shoddy at this point.
Right.
It's stretched and burned at the edges, like the projector ran too long. And there are times when you can't make anything out because it's just there's too much contrast because all the midtones and the colorization has been leached out of it. So it's available for free on some I think if you hunt for it on YouTube, you can't get it on Amazon. It is sort of
There you can get DVD copies, but I don't know if they're the same janked up copies.
I don't know. I
you
mean,
saw it.
I went for the cheapest thing that I could get.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Anyhow,
I'm excited. I will
Shriek
be
of the
watching
Mutilated.
this.
It is so gonzo silly and fun. Just be ready for a movie that is objectively poorly made.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but
All right.
it doesn't mean that it can't be enjoyable.
That's right.
That's true.
Liz, what's your number
Okay.
2?
All right, my number 2 is taking a turn. It is not a movie. It is a TV show.
Surprise!
Yep. It is also brand spanking new, and it
Uh-oh.
is season 3, episode 7 of What We Do in the Shadows, and it is called The Siren.
Yes.
So-
Oh my God! Yeah.
Sirens are cryptids in my world. So, this episode is directed by Yana Gorskaya and was written by Shayna Gold. And the storyline that has our siren is that Laszlo, played by Matt Berry, and Colin, played by Mark Prost, are stealing a boat to sail to an island called Plum Island, because that's where Colin Robinson, who is an energy vampire, thinks that his heritage can be found. So just an island like next to Staten Island is where energy vampires come from. It was like an old dump. And so on their way there, they're drawn off course by a strange song, and they run aground on a different island that's inhabited by a siren named Sheila. And Sheila is this disgusting looking half woman, half bird who lives on the island. And she captures them both, of course, with her sweet song and plans to eat them.
It is not a sweet
So-
song. It is.
It's not a sweet song. It's horrible.
Who-
It's horrible.
Who is that actress, Liz? That plays Sheila.
I do not
We'll have to look it
know.
up.
I'll have to look
she
it up.
is like, her voice is just hysterical.
Yeah.
No, it is
It's horrible.
nails on a chalkboard voice.
Yeah. So of course Laszlo is able to escape because he just yells bat and turns into a bat and meets up with the other vampires and gets Guillermo, their familiar / bodyguard, to help him rescue Colin because Colin is trapped on this island. So the way he's going to do that is he's going to get some noise canceling headphones because that's going to be what he can get on Colin. So they go to Best Buy. They get a little bit sidetracked, but when he returns to the island, he finds that Colin has fallen in love with the siren.
Legit.
And he doesn't legit in love. He doesn't want to leave. They're together, but Laszlo knows what's best for him, so he rescues him. But unfortunately, they leave some of their documentary crew behind. Dun, dun, dun. So this was my fun take on the siren myth. I think they are totally count as cryptids. This is absolutely hilarious. Yep. There's a great other storyline in the episode that has to do with my favorite character on the show, the doll of Nadia. Yeah. So if you want something funny, silly, and cryptid forward, yep. Episode 7 of the latest season of What We Do in the Shadows. You can see that on FX, or if you have Hulu, it's streaming there.
Are you caught up, Liz?
Yep. This season is even better than the other seasons.
Yep.
I'm not quite caught up, so no spoiler alerts.
Yeah,
I did see the siren though. I did see the siren.
Yeah,
I'm like 3 episodes behind, I think.
Yeah, okay. There's a big twist coming up.
Yes, there is. Big.
So.
All right, speaking of big twists, this is a 2004 mockumentary, which actually does have a huge twist at the end. And this is called Incident at Loch Ness that we were just talking about. This was produced and written by Werner Herzog. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that Werner Herzog, like for real, like a for real director. And he did it with...
Crazy Werner.
He did it with Zach Penn, who is...
Right.
Superhero guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a very, very small cast film that ostensibly follows it's a documentary that is based around another fake documentary where a film crew is following Werner Herzog as he's making a documentary. They're making a documentary called Herzog in Wonderland.
Okay.
And it's following Werner Herzog as he himself is investigating the Loch Ness Monster.
Nice.
Zach Penn, being the superhero guy that he is, of course, is completely dissatisfied with, just Werner Herzog being Werner Herzog, and he decides to turn it into a Hollywood production. He hires a Playboy bunny to as the sonar operator, and he hires this entirely insane cryptozoologist who is like completely off his rocker. Turns out the guy is not a cryptozoologist. He is just an actor that Zach Penn has hired because he knows the guy is completely off his rocker. But he really wants to sort of amp up the excitement in the film, much to Werner Herzog's chagrin, who is just pissed as hell when he finds out that Zach Penn is essentially undermining him at every step of the way throughout the course of the film. And Zach Penn plays himself in the film. Werner Herzog, of course, plays himself as they're investigating the Loch Ness Monster. Herzog basically says, the Loch Ness Monster, I mean, much like all the cryptozoology stuff, is like it's a creation of our collective psychology. It's a creation of our needs to sort of figure things out or to sort of put things in place where things don't appear to be in place. I mean, that's his sort of intellectualized version of what cryptozoology is. They eventually do end up in Inverness. They do get out on the lake, and the fake documentary about the fake documentary. All I will say is it turns very real.
Nice.
And it ends in a way that, because it's very funny, but it's sort of darkly funny throughout the entire course of the film. But it does take a very, and that was my segue, the twist. There is a twist, and it takes a very, very different twist, which I think is actually kind of fascinating the way they did it.
It goes dark at the end.
Yeah, it kind of goes a little dark at the end, and you really but it goes dark in such a way that you don't necessarily know what's what.
What was the name of this again?
It's called the Incident at Loch Ness. It's a 2004
This
film.
sounds great.
It's really great. I mean, even there's early on in the film as they're getting like the production crew together, like they actually hire a guy in the production crew. They hire a sound guy. They hire a cinematographer. I looked them up. They're these guys that they hired. The sound guy who's part of the documentary and the cinematographer. They are Academy Award winning auteurs who are participating in the film,
Slumming it.
Yeah, but then they have like they do a dinner party and like Jeff Goldblum's there and like all these Hollywood type people
Nice.
are there hanging out at Werner Herzog's film as they're discussing the mythos around the Loch Ness Monster. It's a great film. I think it was really really underrated. I think obviously
I never heard of it.
Yeah, by the fact that you guys
I never heard of it either. This sounds cool.
hadn't heard of it or seen it, I think is a clear indication of the fact that most people haven't either. But it is, I would say it's very, very underrated, and it definitely belongs on any cryptozoology list for sure.
Yeah.
The Incident at Loch Ness.
I
Well,
like it.
yeah, my number two, picking up on what you just did, I think there's something very appropriate for a documentary style cryptid thing. I think that is really it's investigative journalism, and it's and going back to our discussion about In Search Of, which was I think if you had the two biggest things to happen to crypto, one, In Search Of, two, the X-Files.
Right.
Those are the your two landmark popular culture kinds of things that would explore all aspects of cryptid culture.
Not those three weird TV shows that John E. Wall referenced.
No, which also brings into question the legitimacy of the existence of John E. Wall. This is a film that I saw actually at the 2019 Popcorn Frights, and it's called The Vice Guide to Bigfoot.
Oh, right.
Also known as, it's come out as on the new title. They've retitled it, and it's called 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot, parentheses, Number 1 Will Blow Your Mind. And it's directed by a guy named Zach Lamplug. So this is the IMDb description of this is a clickbait journalist is sent to the Appalachian foothills to cover a Bigfoot convention where he discovers there is much more to this listicle than meets the eye. And that is I think the clickbaity journalism thing, that is, if you've been on any website anywhere, at the bottom of the things it'll say, check out this crazy list. Number 1 will blow your mind.
Right.
It's a fun shaky cam mockumentary that offers a great blistering satire of both hipster journalism and hillbilly crypto fandom at the same time. I saw this is again, I was on Popcorn Frights, and it's now available streaming on YouTube. And
fun.
It zigs and zags.
Wait, you can stream it for free on off the Vice channel?
Oh, you can.
No, that's what I'm asking.
No, I don't think it's. I don't know if it's. One of the funny things is I was digging around and I couldn't find out whether it was really Vice that was behind this thing.
Oh,
I think it might, but it's because it is satirical, and it also really pokes fun at the notion of investigative journalism, right? Because in this case, there's a young journalist named Brian Emond playing himself. He's a bitter and burnt out journalist who is consumed by the legitimacy of his journalistic ethics and methods. But of course, he's working for, apparently Vice has sent him on these crazy assignments, like follow this stoner rap artist and find and hang out with him for a day.
Right.
And just all these dumb assignments that are bound to get people just to go to them because they're sensational. And so he's grousing about he lost a one of the prime interviews that he had to this ex stoner rap artist. Again, it's like apparently Vice has this thing for stoner rap artists. And so then he says, okay, hey, listen, I got a good one for you. We're going to send you out to Georgia and go hang out at the Bigfoot convention. And he goes, "What? No." But he gets sent out there with his producer and cameraman, who actually is the director, Zach Lamplug, and they run into a bunch of crazy Bigfoot
people who go to Bigfoot
advocates.
convention.
Yeah,
I think we're going to call them crazy.
And they get directed to a man who is believed to be the best Bigfoot tracker in the region, the cryptozoologist named Jeff Stevenson, a.k.a. the Cryptid Commander. This guy is clearly not a real professional, and he's a pretty sad specimen, a dropout loser who seems to be faking everything despite his fervent conviction that he's close to actually finding Sasquatch.
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta, yeah. Just
okay.
Yeah. So, but they go, so Sasquatch in Appalachia. It's like, this is, we're in the wrong part of the country.
It's close enough.
But he teaches, so he goes out there and he teaches these guys the Bigfoot mating call, and off the distance they think they see something moving through the woods, and it's like, oh, that's him, it's Sasquatch, and they scramble around, it's like, oh no, what'd you get? And it's like, you see like a hand,
right, or
something, or what might be a hand, or it might be a branch. It's like, it's pretty, it's classic dodgy Bigfoot evidence, right? And then their first night in camp, something wrecks their campsite, something big enough to break a skillet, right? And so it's like, oh, he's onto us. We're on his trail. We've got the Bigfoot right in our tracks. And then they find a dead body, and just completely mauled.
What? But one of the crew?
No, they're wandering out in the woods, and they find like what looks to be a hunter who was out in the woods, and it's just like the corpse, and so they figured that Bigfoot must have gotten him. Now all of a sudden they've got the attention of the Vice crew, the two guys out there. It's like, oh wow, now we're on to something, and they start taking it seriously, and then they get lost, and then on a private aside, Jeff, the crypto commander, confesses to his own. He runs his own video podcast, and he's like, he's so excited to be associated with Vice because this is going to get him like to the next level.
Right.
But he admits that he had faked the first night in camp, but he's really spooked because of the dead body they found.
Right.
He wasn't ready for that, and now he's like, I think we really might be onto something. But then it becomes unveiled that Jeff had been planting some of these things, and that nobody trusts anybody.
Right.
And then the real shit happens because they run into a backwoods fentanyl opioid production facility, and
no good.
They are in serious doo-doo. But do we get?
So wait, you saw this in 2019?
2019.
Okay, because it's saying it was just released in 2021.
Right.
So that's
it was in the festival circuit.
Right. So now it's like out.
It's out.
Yeah, you can watch it on Hulu too.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, do we get to see Bigfoot? Was it all a ruse?
Do you get to know
number one will blow your mind?
Do you get to know the number one?
Yes.
Do they tell you the number one?
They show you the number one.
Oh, awesome!
Okay. And
awesome.
it is totally worth it.
I want to see this.
It is it is laugh out loud funny. Because I think both the scouring, because it's like, the hipster journalists. You feel sorry for journalists nowadays because the great print journalism jobs are gone.
The ceiling is pretty low.
Yeah, and now you're sort of stuck on trying to get clickbaity stuff.
Stoner rappers and Bigfoot.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, that is the Vice Guide to Bigfoot, aka 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot. Number one will blow you.
I want to see it.
Okay.
I want to see that
Check
for
it
sure.
Out. Liz.
All right. My number one is a 2015 film called The Lure. I am going to apologize in advance for all the Polish names that I am about to slaughter in this review.
Wow, you're going there.
But,
okay. Yeah.
This is a Polish horror musical about mermaids.
Yes.
It is directed by Agnieszka Smozinka, and it tells the tale of two mermaids who emerge from the water to perform in a nightclub. So their names are Golden and Silver, and this takes place sometime in the 80s, and they come up to shore on a beach in Poland where the rock band that's called Figs and Dates just happens to be performing on the beach. So they go back with the band to this nightclub, and they become strippers / backup dancers for this band.
Underground this is like the 80s. Like this is supposed to be taking place in like 80s.
It's supposed to be the 80s, yeah. But these are not just regular like Disney Little Mermaids. These are ones that also have a taste for blood. So Golden murders like a bar patron after the show. And then Silver, she falls in love, of course, with the bassist in the band. But he only sees her as a fish and not a woman. So the girls go out one night where they meet Triton from the sea, and he is also the singer of a metal band. And he tells Golden that her sister is going to fall in love, but that guy is going to marry someone else. And if she doesn't murder him, she's going to turn into sea foam and, lose her tail and die. Classic Little Mermaid. But she's like, no, that's not going to happen. So in order to be with this guy, she gets her tail completely chopped off, but she has to murder someone else in order to get the legs of another girl sewn onto her, in a classic leg transplant. Yeah. But of course, the boy is not going to appreciate this, because when they finally hook up, once she's got her legs, all that happens is blood from her scar comes out all over him, and he's pretty grossed out. So
do they show the tail chopping?
Heck yeah, they do. Oh. Heck yeah, they do. This is a horror movie and musical.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But of course, he meets another woman, and he's going to marry her. So Golden and Silver are like, well, I guess we're going to go to the wedding. And Silver's like, she's got to murder this guy before daybreak, or she's going to turn into sea foam, not be able to go back to the sea. She's going to lose her voice. She's going to lose her legs and everything. But she just can't do it. So she turns into sea foam, which is the ending of the real Little Mermaid, not the Disney one. But don't worry. Her sister is so pissed that she just rips his throat out in front of everybody on the boat at his wedding to avenge her death. Yeah. So no spoilers because it's Little Mermaid, but set in the 80s Poland with lots of cocaine, lots of nudity.
This is like
lots of terrible, terrible songs.
This is like the antidote to Splash with Daryl Hannah.
It is.
Yes.
I saw this a few years ago, and I put a rating on this thing. I got a post on the site. It was one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen.
Did you really? I didn't even look. It's totally weird.
What did you give it?
I gave it 2.5 stars.
2.5. Okay.
I didn't know what to do with it.
I'd give it a 3.
I would probably, in hindsight, I still have fond memory. I still remember it. And so I think that I'm probably more likely to recast it as a 3 than a 2.5. It's
okay.
But I think that the songs are awful. I just can't.
They're terrible.
And you have to sit through that. That's the hardest part, and it's a musical, so you got a lot of them.
Yep.
It is, but the mermaid effects are spectacular.
Oh, the mermaid effects are awesome, and they're not like they're gross. Their tails are gross.
Yeah, and it's like there's like weird fish genitalia, just weird stuff.
Oh yeah, there's tons of nudity, tons of blood, tons of drugs, tons of sex. This is not
the plot is really
the Disney Little Mermaid.
I had to give it a couple of runs through just to grasp.
Wait, you've watched it more than one time?
Oh, I backed it up.
Oh,
it was like I'd watch it and I was like, "What did I just see?" It's like so I was constantly rewinding it. It's like, what am I missing here? And partly it's also because it's in Polish, and then you're interrupted by musical numbers, and so just trying to figure out what the motivations are is difficult. But it is a unique experience. I will give you that.
Yes, it is.
And
yes, it is. And it's cryptid.
It's very cryptid, and it's dank
mermaids.
And dirty and and like unlike anything you've ever seen.
All right, Lured.
That's
Lure.
true.
The Lure.
The Lure. Yeah.
2015.
Yeah, hats off to the prosthetics and makeup crew. That was amazing.
Oh man, the tails are awesome.
Make sure you put 2015 next to The Lure, because there are literally like 1,000 films titled The Lure.
2015.
All right, my last film of the night is directed by Eduardo Miguel Sanchez Quiros, the Cuban-American-born director who was responsible, along with Daniel Myrick, for writing and directing The Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
He did a film called. This is a film from 2014 because he hadn't done a ton of stuff, but this is an American found footage monster horror film called Exists.
Okay.
Yeah, which has gotten pretty uneven reviews out there, but I really liked it. It revolves around a group of friends who they're headed out to the woods in East Texas to visit one of the gentleman's uncles to go stay at his cabin out in the middle of the woods. And on their way out to the woods, they stop, of course, and buy fireworks, which they're shooting off in the car, not paying attention to where they're driving in the middle of the night, and they hit something. They get out to investigate to see what they have hit. They cannot figure out what they have hit, but they do hear horrible moans and howling and growling. And of course, they chalk it up to, cougar, mountain lion, panther, whatever whatever is endemic to southeast United States of that ilk. They go to the cabin and eventually learn that what they hit was a Bigfoot.
Oh, not a chupacabra.
Not a chupacabra. No, they hit a Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot. They preface the entire film by saying, the Bigfoot is a very peaceful creature unless provoked. well, guess what? They
hit by a car.
They hit one of the Bigfoot babies, and the Bigfoot mom and dad are none too pleased with this group of hipster documentarians who are making a film out in the woods, and that's of course the found footage piece of the film, and that's of course why Mr. Sanchez he goes back to what he knew in the Blair Witch Project. Mm-hmm. It's the tension is great. The Bigfoot creatures are great. The characters are a little flat. They're a little one-dimensional, but that's okay because you don't get a lot of time to really think about the characters because the group of 5 friends is essentially under assault like almost immediately. I was sort of surprised because it didn't really give you a lot of time to breathe. Mm-hmm. Like they hit the Bigfoot like in the first probably 3 or 4 minutes of the film, mm-hmm. and then it's on from there. And
then it becomes a siege movie.
It's kind of a siege movie, yeah, or a home invasion siege movie, and it never takes its foot off the gas. Like pretty much the entire film. Like you're in for it like immediately. A gentleman from the Austin Chronicle said he gave it Richard Whitaker, I think was his name. He said that he gave it a predominantly positive review, and he said that the film held a lot of similarities to the Blair Witch, but he does evade a lot of the bear traps, and he returns the tension and pathos to the monster movie. Like you really do feel like in this film, and I think to a certain extent in the film I mentioned earlier, less so in the middle film I mentioned, but you do feel a certain pathos to the Bigfoot character or the Fauk monster. Like, the people are out there trying to hunt this thing, or that this thing's habitat has been so significantly degraded that it's forced to interact with human beings. And you do start to, I had those feelings when I was watching a couple of these films. And it is kind of sad. It does pull at your heartstrings. Although
poor baby Bigfoot.
Although these Bigfoots are pissed off, and you do see the end result of them being pissed off in 2014's Exists.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, Eric, bring us on home.
Well,
what's your number one?
Number one, I just saw 2 days ago.
What?
In the theaters. It is the much anticipated Antlers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Directed by Scott Cooper, who also directed. He's not. This is his first real horror foray. He did Black Mass and Hostiles. He does a lot of tense thriller dramas.
Oh, okay.
So the Black Mass being like a mob drama,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a movie that features a Wendigo. And the Wendigo is a cryptid most commonly associated with Algonquin native legend. It's a malevolent spirit imbued with both human and animalistic properties, and is known to invoke feelings of insatiable greed, hunger, and a desire to cannibalize other humans or commit murder in those who fall under its influence. It's known for its foul stench and is often associated with cold and wintry weather. Now, this is a film done by Fox Searchlight, so they sort of, this is another one of those movies that got bounced. It was supposed to be issued last year, and because of the pandemic, they wanted to have a theatrical release, so it just came out for Halloween season this year. I don't know if we get this podcast up soon, it may still be in theaters, but it's running. It's got a wide release. I don't know how long it's going to be in the theaters. I do recommend you see it on a big screen. It's beautiful.
I agree. I
It's,
caught it
Yep.
the day after Eric. So
I think a lot of horror fans have known about this movie.
we've
for
been
a while.
waiting for this one. This was on our looking forward to in 2020 list that we recorded at the end of 2019.
Yeah.
Right.
So 2 years in a row, it's been something that we've been looking forward to, and it does not disappoint. It is really, really good. It is.
Agreed.
I think I liked it even probably a little bit more than Liz. This is the first 5-star movie I've given this year.
Woo-wee.
I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
So
Woo-wee. That's a lot.
This is it's a somber and wonderfully layered folkloric horror film. I thought every scene was meaningful and every action was consequential. And through masterful storytelling, it weaves together themes of post-traumatic stress syndrome, of domestic abuse, the body horror of opioid dependency, lycanthropy, native mysticism, and folklore storytelling. It's got a lot of stuff going on. And it is a Swiss watch. Everything about it has every action is tied to consequences that happen later on in the film. And to the point where I just didn't want to. I had to. Classic. Mike knows this. I'll have a big diet soda going into the theater, and it was like, I gotta go, but I can't leave the theater because I don't want to miss any of it.
Right,
and
right.
and unfortunately, I missed a point. Where it's like, oh shoot! Because I found out later there was a small key moment, but they're all key moments.
Yeah.
So the overriding story here is that Carrie Russell is Julia Meadows, and she is a teacher returning back to a small backwoods Oregon town. It would look to be in the Cascades. I don't think it's Mike and I talked about this yesterday. I think that it might be they might have shot some of it in the Cascades, but a lot of it looks like it was shot in British Columbia.
Do they say what the Oregon town is?
It's called Point something. It's a fictional town.
Oh. Goodness gracious!
it looked like the same place they filmed The Tall Man, to be honest with you, because it was like an abandoned mining town.
Okay.
Or could have been the North Cascades.
Sure.
But there's a big bodies of water nearby that would suggest that's not
British Columbia.
That's not the
Columbia.
Sandy Am or the Mackenzie or anything like that. Anyways, but she and her brother Paul, played by Jesse Plemons, who is now the town sheriff where they grew up, are living together in their old family home where their father had died, and he is they're both survivors of child abuse at the hands of their father, and she immediately picks up signs that one of her students, Lucas, is having difficulties at home. His homework assignments are graphic and grim. He draws these horrific illustrations of like cannibalistic or monsters eating people. And he's telling, and when she asks people to tell stories, he spins this folkloric tale of darkness and dread, and it's like, well, red flags. This kid's having some trauma, and his mom had died a long time ago, and his father recently, in the opening scene of the movie, he's a opioid junkie, and he also is a meth producer, and they're doing it in an abandoned mine, and he and his partner get jumped by something.
That's the Wendigo.
And
Yep.
it turns out he survives the ordeal. His partner gets destroyed.
Yeah.
But his father staggers back to the house, and he's been sort of hiding out turning degenerating into a Wendigo in the attic of the house. And so Lucas is going out there and killing wildlife or finding roadkills and throwing roadkills in the attic to feed his slowly transforming father and his little brother who's getting progressively sicker and sicker.
Do they explain like what the Wendigo is, or
and they have
a little bit.
They do, and this is where I think Graham Greene,
is it like through exposition or narration, or do they give you a definition, or
they give you an exposition dump in the form of Graham Greene, who dances with wolves.
Oh no!
It's like, okay, we'll bring in a famed native. He used to be the old sheriff,
right.
And he sort of gives you the background of the Wendigo, which I just described.
Okay. So they do explain.
They do explain it. I really wish they could have used that. That is my one gripe about the movie. Is I think Graham Greene, if you're going to have him in the movie, use him more.
Yeah, use him a little bit more.
Right.
And but eventually, there a lot of signs point to the problems at Lucas's family's home.
Yeah.
So then the sheriff, the brother, and the school district, and the natives are all sort of keying in on there's something wrong here,
right?
And but there are again, since everything is finally meshed, it makes sense that why hasn't anybody gone and checked on the kid? Well, because the dad's a junkie and nobody wants to mess with a junkie dad, and he's managed in the past. It's like he's got custody of the kid. What can I do?
But I mean, is that ultimately the allegory here? Is it that the Wendigo is tantamount to methamphetamine and opioids?
I think you can make that. You can
is that what they're trying to tease?
Draw
out?
that line.
I'm not saying it's bad or anything.
No, there are definite horrors involved with the transformation of the junkie.
Okay,
right.
Okay.
And make of it what you will. I think you can definitely make that connection.
So it's a modern horror story.
Yeah. And as well as also, standing up to this monster are two people who've been horribly abused.
Right.
Both in Lucas, the little boy, and in Julia, the Kerry Russell character.
Right.
Fighting back. The Wendigo, the most important thing here is that they did the Wendigo right.
Okay.
The creature effects are great.
There's spectacular creature effects. It's gory. Because they've tried to do it before. We've seen it with the Larry Fessenden movie, Wendigo. Shriek of the Mutilated is a Yeti. Know the difference between a Yeti and a Yeti and a Wendigo. A Yeti? A Yeti and a Wendigo. And the transformation sequence is like I think it's a physical, not a digital FX kind of a thing, or it didn't seem like it to me.
Okay.
They look great. They
look great, and there's this really gross. I mean, there's some really yucky kind of things, like the dad's face is still stuck on the face of the creature after it transforms.
That's the best part.
That was like, oh, that's awful.
Okay. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
But that's a minor spoiler alert. I think that because really what it comes down to is, how do you deal with the Wendigo? Because the Wendigo is also known to leap from host to host.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, go see the movie. It is playing out in theaters, and it almost certainly it's probably going to get more than a Shudder release. It's a bigger movie than that.
Okay.
Yes, I agree.
So, and
good
that
choice.
would
I want to see. I think this is the first time ever. I want to see every single film Eric mentioned.
Well, how about that?
Normally, I'm like two out of 3, but tonight it's 3 out of 3. I want to see all these films. I want to see Antlers. I want to see Shriek of the Mutilated. I want to see all of them.
Yep. So let's do a recap.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Liz, what do you got for your cryptid horror?
Okay, I had 2002's The Mothman Prophecies, directed by Mark Pellington. I had this season, What We Do in the Shadows, episode number 7, The Siren, directed by Jana Gorska, and 2015's Polish horror musical, The Lore, directed by Agnieszka Smozinka.
Yeah, if you're in the mood for batshit
crazy,
crazy,
Polish people.
go see The Lure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had 1972's American docudrama horror film, The Legend of Boggy Creek, directed by Charles Pierce. Incident at Loch Ness, 2004, directed by little guy named Werner Herzog. And finally, another kind of big name, possibly one of the biggest names in horror in the last 30 years, Eduardo Miguel Sanchez Quiros, who directed 2014's Exists.
All right. I had the trashy and no-brow film Shriek of the Mutilated from 1974, directed by Michael Findlay. If you can handle bad acting and
yes.
bad looking movie, it will entertain. I also have The Vice Guide to Bigfoot from 2019, aka 15 Things You Didn't Know About Bigfoot. Number 1 will blow your mind. And that is directed by Zach Lamplug. And then finally, the just released Antlers, directed by Scott Cooper. And I highly recommend you go see this movie. I think these are the kind of movies I want to see more of.
Heck yeah.
All right, Mike, you've got a tagline.
Well, no. Let's go. Do you want to do your tagline first? Or you want to do my tagline?
I kind of half spoiled my tagline. It was going to be it is number 1 will blow your mind.
Oh, okay.
But I wanted to weave that part into the.
You don't want to do the Shriek of the Mutilated? I mean,
the Shriek of the Mutilated ones.
It's amazing. A frenzied hunt for a hideous beast uncovers an evil cannibal cult, and death is the devil's blessing. A corpse is the bait in the trap of terror. Shriek of the Mutilated.
That's pretty accurate.
That's like 3 taglines in one.